And I think one of the lovely things is that we brought that energy into everything we did, right? Like if we were doing a 30-second spot for someone, like the challenge always was like, these are our resources. How do we tell a story in these 30 seconds?
Presented by Sacramento Educational Cable Consortium. You're listening to Lights, Camera, Learn. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Lights, Camera, Learn. Our guest today is Emi Mendieta Cordova. She's a cinematographer and a great one at that. So welcome, Emi. So as a cinematographer, you've worked on a lot of different projects, from narrative film to documentaries to music videos. Let's start out by asking you, what's been the most difficult or frustrating project you've ever worked on?
That's a good question. The thing is, like any project that's been eternally frustrating, I've walked away from. So I think, there is what I think. Okay, I think it would be. I'm not going to name which projects because
that's fine.
But it is one of my longer form projects. It was shot over 10 weekends in the Bay Area, and it was produced in a very interesting way, and it was just both frustrating and also like interesting of an experience because it would be stuff like I'd show up at the week because it was cheaper for them to like fly me up. It was when I was living in LA. They would fly me up every single weekend, have me shoot stuff, and then fly me back. It was cheaper to hire me and do that than to hire someone local, which sounds really weird, which sounds terrible. But also, a lot of the frustration there was that it was also so low budget that there would be times where they'll be like, yeah, we're going to shoot this scene. And then I get there and they'll be like, oh, no, we're actually shooting this other scene that's taking place in this location. I'm like, that location was not in the script. And they're like, oh, don't worry, the director's writing it. And I'm like, cool.
Oh, no.
So, like, it was like, I just told myself, we're just Wong-Kar Waiing it. This is Chungking Express. This is how we're approaching it. Because Chungking Express was notably done like that. They would, the director would write at night and during the day, and then they shoot what he wrote during.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm just taking it as that. And I'm very proud of the work. I'm like, I think a lot of people look at that on my reel and they're like, that looks gorgeous. That looks amazing. And the final product is it's very esoteric. It's very art house.
Okay.
So it was frustrating in that sense, but I also think that like, I'm very proud of my work, as I just said. And I met a lot of really amazing people on that piece, and including the production designer. We became really, really good friends after that. So there's always an upside to it, is how I see these challenges.
Well, that's great. When you started talking about that, you said, there are projects that you might see and then you know that you need to walk away from. So what's your criteria for doing that?
Usually my red flags are safety of some sort.
Oh.
I'm a really, really big on-set safety for very personal reasons, and I'm happy to get into that.
Yeah.
But even before that happened, I was really big on set safety. Some of the projects I've walked away from are like, one of them wanted me to be on the back of a pickup truck with a tripod without any harness or safety implements, and they wanted to do that kind of very run and gun, and then didn't even want to spend money on the tripod. So I was like,
that's not good.
If you don't have money to rent a tripod, and you want me to do this really unsafe thing, like this is not for me. Another one was trying to be shady with like production hours. They were like, oh, we're going to do an 8-day shoot. And I'm like, sorry, 8-hour shoot. And I'm like, that's great. Because usually production hours the standard film day is 12 hours plus lunch. And I was like, oh, this is great. An 8-hour day would be lovely. But they're like, oh, no. But it's 8 hours but the crew can wrap after that. And I'm like, no, we're taking reduced rates because you said 8 hours. And that is from start through taillights. That is not plus wrap. So, and that was another one where I was just like, no, I'm not. I tried to like reason with the producer on that case, and they were like, unflinching. So I was like, I need to walk away from this. So these are all the like, I'm very strict about that. I'm very like, I protect myself and my crew, and I don't want to put myself in like dangerous
Yeah, I can
situations.
understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So since I was going to wait a little bit to ask you about the Halyna Hutchins situation, but
Yeah.
and I appreciate that you want to talk about that.
Mhm.
Not to get too down here, but obviously that was a really impactful situation for you because you were friends with her. And
Yep.
for the folks not maybe aware of it or may not have recalled, this is a woman who was killed on a set of Rust, right? So, you know, how did that impact you personally and on a professional level as well?
Um, that there's for me, there's everything before that and everything after that.
Okay.
Um, in both my personal and my professional life. I think again, we went to AFI together.
Mm-hmm.
We were very, very close friends, to the point where like I helped plan her funeral. I helped establish the scholarship fund at AFI. Like I really was, and I'm still one of the people that I'm crusading for set safety in her name.
Yeah.
Um, and all that stuff. It had a profound impact on me personally because again, she was one of my best friends and she was the kind of person that like we'd call each other. The great thing about the DP community, a lot of especially the female DP community, we're very, very we help each other out. We're
Sure.
very supportive of each other. And she was a person, we did this for each other. We would call each other before a project and be like, oh, I'm doing this. This is really exciting. Or like, I'm dealing with this. How would you deal with this? And, bounce ideas back and forth and all that stuff. So she was one of the people that I did that with. So I really miss her. And I'm naturally a very introverted person. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Well,
she's a
and
very,
so people know you and I used to work together at the
yes.
ABC 10. So I saw a bit of that. And I also saw, at least from the outside looking in, the impact that that situation had on you. And I know it was hard. I know it was hard.
Yeah, that was the other aspect of it because I was working at ABC 10 at the time when it happened. And just the news machine, not ABC 10 specifically, but the news machine caught wind of it.
Yep.
Like I was also dealing with the, you know, PR aspect of it.
Right.
I also ended up eventually being doing a victim impact statement at Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the
Mm-hmm.
Armor's sentencing. So that threw me into the spotlight, and like and that was a whole other factor in this that was like really difficult to deal with because I'm like everyone wants to ask you all these questions, and like dealing with grief and dealing with
Sure.
the media aspect of it was really trippy. Um, and then in terms of my professional life, again, like I've always been very conscious of safety, but now it's
Mm-hmm.
like I I go the extra mile, like, and like I make sure that every set I'm on is like, first of all, I put her name and Sarah Jones's name on my slate. And incidentally, today is 12 years since Sarah Jones died,
Oh,
actually.
really? I didn't
Hmm.
realize that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I put both of their names on my slate, and I make sure that people on my crew know that her connection to me because it does change the environment. Be like, oh, this person was actually personally affected by
Yeah.
this death, and it does make the people on my sets in that environment be more aware about set safety. I'm also I do extra checks on like what's happening around me on my sets because I don't want to take those chances. I tell my crew, I tell my students all the time, like, set safety is paramount. If you do
Yeah.
not feel safe, you come to me, you come to your department head, you tell me, and we will like stop and make changes. Because like we love our jobs, but it's not worth your life.
Right.
There's no reason for a set to be unsafe in those degrees, you know? Um, so, and yeah, I miss her like crazy on a personal level. And every time I get a new project, and especially with some of the ones coming up, I'm just like, I wish she were here and I could just
I
call her
bet.
and
Yeah.
tell her I'm shooting on this camera on these new lenses and like get excited and nerdy about her. And it's just like, oh wait, I can't.
Right.
So
Well,
very,
do you
yeah.
think that Hollywood has made enough changes now to prevent something like that from happening again?
No,
No? Okay.
no.
What do they need to do?
There needs to be more checks and balances, to be completely honest. Because the reason she died, I mean, like the armor is
Yeah.
one, as I said in her victim impact statement that I did in her sentencing, is like she's absolutely liable, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
for the bullet being on the set, right? But there was an environment created on that set that allowed this to happen, and a lot of those environments still occur very frequently.
Mm.
And for me, it's not just about like physical safety. I've been on sets where like I've seen a lot of the crew or actors emotional safety put at risk
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Like when you're doing a movie with like really heavy topics, like, sorry, I don't know if I can say this on your podcast, but like sexual assault or
Sure.
like
Yeah, you can.
that sort of,
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. I mean, there are safeguards that you should be putting in there, and a lot of people, producers in particular, um, tend to cut corners there. And you never know who's been a victim of that on the crew,
Right.
who's sensitive that out of the crew, or the actors who are portraying that. That just all that needs to be taken into account, especially in like I have stunts in like my next project. Like I have a stunt coordinator. I'm making sure there's a stunt rehearsal. I'm making sure everyone is like properly educated on everything. But like, there's been cases where like even when you have a prop weapon that can't fire or anything like that, knowing your rights as a crew member or as a
Sure.
cast member to be able to inspect all these things, there's not enough education, especially when you go to the indie world. When you go into the union world, it's a little bit different. There is some safety bulletins and there's some education around that, especially following Helena's
Yeah.
death.
Yeah.
But absolutely, there is not enough done in that arena, I think. And the biggest one actually is when we're talking about set hours, like a 12-hour day is standard, but like having enough turnover between days is also really important. Like um, a lot of crew, a lot of cast don't get enough turnaround time between days, and like they go home, they're driving super tired, and people get into accidents and die or get really
Yeah. So
injured. So even on that, it's like,
yeah, you bring up a really good point here that most people don't understand what a day on a set entails, right? So
yeah,
describe what a 12-hour day would look like, because most of us are used to 8, 9, maybe 10 hours a day,
yeah,
not consistently for maybe days and days and days on at a time. So
yeah.
talk about that a bit.
So the average day on set is the standard day is considered like a 12-hour day.
Yeah.
There's other formats like you can do 10-hour days, you can with French hours, which is called, so it's usually 12 hours plus lunch. So it's not actually 12 hours.
Yeah.
So a lunch is usually 45 minutes to an hour. So you end up doing really 13 hours
Right.
roughly.
Yeah.
And so what's recognized is that that means, from call, so you'll get a call sheet at the beginning, before every day, you'll get a call sheet telling you what time you need to report to set.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 12-hour day, in theory, plus lunch ends at, 12 or 13 hours after that. And that means taillights. Taillights means like what it sounds like. Your
Uh-huh.
car is driving away from the
Okay.
parking lot.
That's the end. You're in your car and you're heading home.
Yep,
Yeah.
correct.
Yep.
That is what it should be. That is what it's recognized to be. Anything beyond that, you get paid additional overtime in theory. But when you're in the underworld and you negotiate a day rate, that's usually what it's understood to be, like
Mm-hmm.
12-hour day. Um, so usually you get there. What happens the day of is both standard and not. Like you get there, it takes about an hour or so to get the first shot up. So that's like prep time. So, your actors are in makeup, your camera's, getting built and set up for the first shot. Production design is like dressing the sets, wardrobe's getting actors in wardrobe, lighting, grip and electric are lighting the set. Depending within that hour, how people operates in different ways. Some people want the actors to go straight through hair, makeup, and wardrobe, and then do a rehearsal.
Uh-huh.
Some people get the actors in. They do a blocking, which is like the actors will like move in and like go through the scene without fully acting. It's just more of a mechanical thing.
Yeah.
so that everyone knows how that scene is gonna like work out. So that way, I as a DP know where to put the camera and like I
Right.
know where to put the lights
Right.
because like I like to say we don't light air.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can guess where the actor's gonna be, but it doesn't really help me. So I prefer that particular way of
Sure.
doing it. So you block and then you send them off to hair, makeup, wardrobe. They come back and then you start shooting.
Mm-hmm.
The first day on a set, usually your first shot off is not before like an hour and a half. Like the AD will tell you, we're doing first shot off like an hour in, and you're like, cool, yeah, I'll be ready, but I know that we're not doing that before an hour and a half.
Right.
I mean, as you go along, you do get faster. Everyone gets into because it's this big team, and you once you get used to everybody's pace and what we're supposed to be
Sure.
doing, you get more efficient at it. So you shoot, and lunch is 6 hours after call. So like if you had a 6 a.m. call, your lunch needs to be at 12. Um, and that is unmovable. Like
Uh-huh.
if even if you're non-union, the per law you need to get a break at 6 hours. And lunch, nobody can work. If anyone works, like the production can be fined. You can get overtime for the lunch break or lunch penalty.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you're going a little bit into lunch, usually the AD can call what's called grace, which means like if you're about to shoot a shot or you know the shot that you're about to shoot will go a couple minutes into lunch, they can ask for grace that, and usually grace is like maybe 5 minutes, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
Like that's pushing it. It's more like it's 11:58 and like you need to get this one shot. It'll go into 12:01 and the AD will like, are we okay with grace? And everyone has to agree. Um, so you go have lunch. Lunch is catered. They have to provide a lunch for you. And then you go back and you shoot another 6 hours. And then the thing is, like, you really shoot about, again, like between 4.5 and 5 hours, because then wrap usually
Yeah.
takes about an hour. If you're doing what's called a company move, which is you're moving to another location after that one day of shooting, you need to give yourself between an hour and a half to 2 hours for wrap, depending on how big your production is, because everyone has to pack their trucks and everything. Every has, like
Yeah.
everything needs to be cleared out of location. If you're doing what's called a walk away, meaning you are shooting in the same location the next day, you can probably shoot the entirety of those 6 hours and then like cut 15 minutes before, you know, tail lights and like
Yeah.
so everyone has time to make everything safe and go home. So like it
Yeah.
really depends on like what your location or your production plan looks like. You can also have what's called if you have a company move within the same day, that also truncates the amount of shooting time you have because then you have to plan for, setup and wrap within like the same day. So if you have two company moves, there's ways around it. You can like have, Grip and Electric. I mentioned Grip and Electric because that's one of the departments I manage
Yeah.
that usually has the most, stuff to pack. So you can, while you're shooting, I can tell my key grip and my gaffers, like have your guys like pack up most of what's not in play, what's not being used, so that like once we cut, we can pack everything in within as fast as possible and then
Yeah.
move to location. So you can do a company move within the same day. Usually people try to avoid it because it does truncate your shooting
I
time.
can see that. So your job as the DP, you're head of all the photography. Your boss is who?
The directors and the producers.
Yeah.
So I manage three departments. I
Mm-hmm.
manage camera, grip, and lighting. And there are separate departments. Grip and electric get kind of fused into one. They're usually referred to as G&E, grip and electric.
Yeah.
But they are two separate departments. They handle two separate sets of things. Um, and I'm beholden to both the directors and the producers because like
Yep.
my job is both creative, but it's also managerial. And in fact, it's mostly managerial.
Yeah. I
The
could see
creative
that.
side is like
Yeah.
we like say like maybe 40% of my job is the creative aspect. Everything else is politics, psychology, and management.
Okay, that's pretty good. So
So
on the creative side, Emmy, when you get a script, what's your creative process in terms of how you start breaking it down and thinking about it from a cinematography standpoint?
so there's two aspects to that because like when I get a script, and I'm not hired, I will do some prep work to go into the interview. Because like one of the
Okay.
things like a director and a producer will look for in a DP when I'm interviewing is like, do what I imagine, what I'm bringing to the table, is that similar to what they already kind of have in mind, or can it add to what they have in mind, right? So my prep work for an interview is I'll read the script and be like, okay, this is how I see it. Like I see it. These are the colors I think that should be used. This is how the color palette should evolve from this moment to this moment. And then I'll pull references from like films, art, photos. I pull from everything. I've also pulled from architecture. And then I bring all these references into my interview and be like, this is what I got, like what I got from the script. Like, this is what I feel it is emotionally. I connect to the story because XYZ. It always comes from, like I always say, story is king. So
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
story dictates um, how I want to evolve these things and how I want to support the emotional journey of these characters and the emotional arc of the story. Um, and if I get hired, then I start working with the director, to fine tune these things. Like he or she brings, they have reference. They'll be like,
Sure.
like these are the films and these are the colors like I was thinking about, but I really love, what you were thinking about here. And we start like fusing things together and like um, thinking about how we want to evolve what's called the visual language for a
Yeah.
film. Um, from the start through the end for the story itself, for any character arcs, for any character in particular. And again, that depends on each script,
Yeah.
but find that.
Yeah, I want to put a pin in that a minute because now I want to step back a little bit. You're born in Wichita, Kansas, but grew
Mhm.
up in Quito, Ecuador, which is what,
Mhm.
the second highest capital in the world at
Yep.
8,000 feet or something like that,
10,000.
10,000 feet above sea level.
Yep.
What was that? I mean, how old were you when you made that move? So there's a three-part
Mhm.
question. How old were you when you made that move? What was it like to adapt to both an entirely different language and culture? And then where within growing up in Ecuador did you get the idea that you wanted to be a cinematographer?
Well, we moved from Wichita to Quito when I was 5.5.
Okay, so no choice on your part.
No choice on my part. The language wasn't an issue because I was actually raised completely bilingual from the
Okay.
get-go. My parents are also Ecuadorian American, and sorry, the reason we moved back is because their thought is we were supposed to be there for a year.
Uh-huh.
32 years later, they're still
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
um, and so when I was in Kansas, we spoke Spanish at home and then English when we were outside of the house.
Uh-huh.
And then when we went to Ecuador, it reversed.
Yeah.
Uh, we spoke Spanish outside of the house, and then we spoke English a lot at home. And we only watched movies in English, read books in English. And my brother and I went to a mostly Americanized school. It was like 80% in English. So like
Okay.
um, that in terms of language, that wasn't a big
Yeah.
switch. It just flip-flopped a little bit. Culturally, that was insane. Yeah.
I bet.
That was a very, very big difference. I went from like, playing on the streets in the neighborhood and like, Wichita with my friends to like, not having that amount of freedom in terms of that. Quito's just
Sure.
it's a very urban environment. So my parents were like, no, you can't, just go out into the right here.
Right.
Um, but I I had a really good education, I will say that. I was exposed to a lot of things that I might not have been exposed to otherwise. My parents are both academics, they're professors, so I spent a lot of time at the universities with them. And my dad was the head of the Culinary Institute throughout my teenage years, so I spent a lot of my teenage years in a kitchen learning how to like I remember my eighth grade science project was a butter sculpture of the earth. 'Cause why not? And the school I went to was a liberal arts school, so everything was emphasized. My parents really wanted us to have a well-rounded education,
Uh-huh.
wanted us to be good at a sport and good at some form of art. And so I'm actually a cellist. I've I've been
Really?
playing a cello.
I knew you played an instrument, but I forgot the cello was it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've been playing since the fourth grade.
Uh-huh.
And I'm also a fencer. I was ranked third in my category in
Really?
Ecuador. Yeah. And I pursued varsity fencing when I was in college as well. So, um, and then the school itself introduced us to a bunch of different literature genres and different. I took art history when I was in a senior in high school. That was a requirement. And I was also very into mathematics my whole childhood.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I actually skipped 2 grades in math. Um,
Uh,
so my parents really wanted me to be an engineer. That did not
yeah, I
happen.
bet. Right.
Um, but the reason I didn't know I wanted to be a cinematographer until I was in my mid 20s, actually. But I
Okay.
did wanted to know I wanted to be a filmmaker. My parents really love films. We would watch like a lot of 90s. I mean, I grew up in the 90s, but so
Right.
like, but we'd go to the cinema a lot, like probably every weekend or every 2 weekends. We were yeah, at the movie theater watching stuff, and my parents really liked films. So we got introduced to like stuff from the 80s, like Back to the Future and E.T. and all that stuff. My dad wouldn't, introduce us to. And but the big pivotal moment was he borrowed a projector. When I was 7, he borrowed a projector from the university and a laser disc player. This
Okay.
ages me.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's all right.
um, and he projected the original Star Wars trilogy on the wall of the house. And that was the moment I was like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I wanted to be Princess Leia or Luke Skywalker or anything. No, I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah, you wanted to make that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was, and it had the behind the scenes featurette. So I started like just obsessing over that, um, and I wanted to be a film director, and I was a writer the whole time. So like I wrote a lot of scripts. I cut my teeth on like really bad writing, and I would film all these little videos. Did a lot of stop motion when I was a kid. That was the first time. Sorry, the first thing I did was stop motion because that was what was available to me, and was
Yeah.
editing on the VCR, like pausing, and that's how I got my teeth. So I went to college thinking I wanted to be a film director, and that was what I was going
Yeah.
towards,
Yeah.
directing. And after college, I moved to New York City and I got a job at a tea company. And it was one of those startups in Brooklyn in 2011, 2012, very hipster.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was the fifth person hired, and I was an admin assistant for them. And eventually they realized I could do Photoshop and Illustrator. They hired me as their in-house videographer and graphic designer because this was the early days of social media. And I was like, we need to harness this social media situation. So like I was like, okay, we'll put a film degree to good use. Um, and as part of that, they sent me to the Ecuadorian Amazon because their tea it was called Bayusa, and it's a cousin of yerba mate, and it's the biological origin is the Ecuadorian Amazon, and they were sourcing
Okay.
it. So they sent me down there to do like some videos for their social media stuff and their website, and I was hiking through the Amazon with following a Guayusa farmer and a Peace Corps volunteer with a T2I, can T2I strapped to my chest. And I realized I was like, what I was worrying about is like, how do I capture all this beautiful imagery
Mm-hmm.
around me?
Yeah.
Like how do I capture the light? How do I get all the like settings in here to like get the best possible? And like I was not thinking, and I was like, wait, I think I'm not a director. I think I might be a DP.
Uh-huh.
So
That's pretty
changed
cool. Yeah.
changed my life there.
So has there been any point in your career so far where you wish you would have gone a different direction?
Different direction, how is the
Well,
question?
do you wish you would have maybe become a director or maybe taken on a different role in film or not done film at all?
Um, the funny thing about DPing is that I'm I have been directing, and I'm
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
going to direct my first short that I wrote. next week
Oh,
in
congratulations. That's
5
great.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it fully funded. And so that was a nice thing about it too. I was like, well, if I ever want to like go back into the directing world,
Yeah.
because as EPs we're on set so much, like
Yeah.
I looked at my IMDb the other day. I'm like, I have something like 34, 37 credits as a DP under my name. It's insane. I've worked with all these directors. You observe how people do things. So I was like, okay, that's been a better directing school than most. So and it's, I can do that if I wanted to. I'm still primarily a DP, but so I don't regret that
Yeah.
decision. Um, I've been other roles in the film industry. I actually started out as an assistant director. I was really good at it. I, it's a very stressful job, but
Well, when you joined us at ABC 10, you were working in the marketing department,
hmm.
right? And even though you were shooting different videos, it was pretty different than film or short film
Yeah.
or music video. So I don't think that was difficult for you, but what was the difficulty or ease of being in that environment?
Um, so throughout my life, I've had what most people in the industry call survival jobs.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm not going to sugarcoat
Yeah.
it. Like
No, that's yeah.
that was a survival job. But the thing about survival jobs, my rule for survival jobs, because like, look, being a freelancer is hard, and sometimes you just run out of money, and you're like, I need
Right.
a night, right? Like, I
Right.
need to go in and like, that's the reality a lot of people sometimes don't want to face, and like they drive themselves into the ground, and or quit the industry altogether.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
not dishing that,
Yeah.
like, but for me, it's like, okay, if I need to take a survival job, right? Like, for me, what I tell myself, my rule for all of my survival jobs is like, it needs to be industry adjacent,
Yeah.
it needs to use my skills, and it needs to help me grow my craft.
Yeah.
So when I look at something like, working in the marketing department at ABC 10, like, first of all, I really love that environment. Everyone there was a filmmaker at heart.
Yes, they were. That's
Um,
true. That's true.
and and I think one of the lovely things is that we brought that energy into everything we did, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if we were doing a 30-second spot for someone, like the challenge always was like, these are our resources. How do we tell a story in these 30 seconds? How do we make it as filmic as the best we could do? It wasn't just a spot. We didn't treat it as just a spot. We were
Right.
like, or even with like writing topicals, like topicals were I have a love-hate relationship with them because
Well,
I'm the
and I'm
one.
gonna just quickly stop a minute just so that people understand what a topical is.
Yeah,
It's a promotional piece that promotes a story that's topical in the moment.
yeah.
So that's what we're talking about here. So yes, I know that was that was not the most fun you probably ever had.
No, it wasn't, but I did gamify it and I did learn a lot from it.
Yeah.
Because for the one thing, like I took it as a challenge, right? They're
Yeah.
like, okay, you come into the newsroom at 7:45. They give you the stories for your day. You need to write, shoot, and edit that thing within like literally 3 hours. Because
Yeah.
I think we needed to deliver that by 10:45
Yep.
a.m. It had to be in the system. And you're actually cutting three of these. It's a
Yep.
30 and two 15s, if I
Yep.
remember correctly.
Yes.
And you're writing it in literally 15 to 20 minutes because the anchors have like a very small window to like read it for you in the teleprompter between newscasts, and that's all you get, right?
Yeah.
So, I learned a lot about writing fast, editing fast, and like telling a story. And I mean, I was a good editor beforehand.
Yeah.
I'm an excellent
I
editor.
bet you are. I bet you
uh,
are. So I imagine, I mean, since you've been doing this a while, though, your network is really important to you. I mean, you
yes.
kind of mentioned that earlier on with regard to female DPs. Are there
hmm
particular people that stand out for you that you consider both mentors and critical to your network at this point?
So those are two different
Yeah.
sides.
Yeah.
So mentorship is incredibly important. That's the one thing I will say. I do have one formal mentor,
Mm-hmm.
because I've gone through some mentorship. Well, actually, two formal mentors because I've gone through a couple of mentorship programs. I did the ASC, the American Society of Cinematographer,
Oh, yeah.
Vision Mentorship Program. And they assign you an ASC member who's your mentor. My mentor is Nicole Whitaker, who's an incredible television DP and or film DP.
Yeah.
She her latest film is Dust Bunny. Incredible work.
Okay.
And just super generous. Like she's someone that has helped me navigate not just the like creative side of things, because the creative side of things, once you get that down, that's but the politics of it sometimes as you grow in your career get a little bit funnier or more complex. And so
Yeah.
like someone I've been able to call and be like, how do I deal with this?
What's an example of that?
Um,
Without naming
so
names, unless you want to.
so I did a short that was funded by it was through a program that was funded by a very big streamer.
Okay.
Um, and I'm very proud of the short. And we did this one shot that so part of the thing is that the cuts needed to be approved and by the streamer before we were good to picture lock and color and all that stuff.
Okay.
So the one of the two notes, we only got two notes from the streamer, which is unheard of. Like again, for a short film, we were like, it's only two
Yeah.
notes, great, that's
Yeah.
fine.
What's going on
Um,
here? Why isn't there more?
yeah, we're like,
Right.
we're not questioning this. But one of the notes is that they wanted to slow down a shot. And I was very worried about this because we didn't shoot at a high frame rate, meaning like, slow motion so that you
Yeah.
can slow it down. And when you slow it down artificially, it doesn't look as good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of artifacting or like problems technically that can be introduced. And we also knew that on that scene, there were some lights that were flickering because when we were at location, we had LEDs. The overheads were LEDs, they
Mm-hmm.
were not fluorescent. So I didn't think about flicker because
Yeah.
LEDs usually don't flicker. But on in the edit room, like we did notice some flicker. So I was very worried that like slowing it down wouldn't look good and would augment this flicker.
Yeah.
So I was like, I think slowing it down the amount they wanted to slow it down, I think it was like 20% or something like that. The director was, and again, we have a really good relationship with the director. So he was like, hey, Emmy, I don't know about this. Like, what do you think about this? And I was like, I would really like, is there any leeway to fight on this? Because it won't look good.
Yeah.
And this like this very specific shot, and like all because he introduced all these things, but obviously I'm like, do I really want like asking the director to go up against this? Or is
So
like
there's where the
over.
politics comes in, right?
So
Yeah.
I called my mentor up and I was like, hey, has this ever happened to you and how do you deal with it? Right? Because like it puts a lot of pressure on a lot of things. Like it was like, okay, if we want to fight this fight, how do we fight it? Right?
Yeah.
Is it worth fighting this fight? Is the other question.
Right.
Like, and she was like, that, yeah, that's a very common note. Like that's, because I was also like, should I have shot this in, at 120, 60
Right.
frames, whatever. And she was like, no, no, no. That's not on you. That's a very common note. Um, and she's like, it's kind of not worth fighting. But I also hear you on like how, but she was like, I think the fight you need to fight there is like having it not be slowed down that much,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I went back to him and was like, look, is there any way we can maybe compromise on like, let's not slow it down 20%, but can we slow it down like five,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And that was a great, and he was like, yeah, that's a fight I can fight. Like that is something I can take back and like, so they did slow it down. They slowed it down, I think 7%, and I think that was a compromise. And it looks fine. It looks fine.
Right.
But dealing with that, because again, like I am very new at this in certain ways, and like asking my director to go up against a studio
Yeah.
when they're new to it is very hard. And so I was like, Nicole, help, which is what mentors are for.
Right.
Um, so she was really generous about that. And then I have other mentors as well. Sorry, I'm assuming you're editing this.
Yes.
Um,
That's all
oh,
right.
so the other one I have is Sandra Valde Hansen. She also ASC. She was one of my teachers at AFI,
Mm-hmm.
and she she's the person who actually inspired me to go into teaching
Okay.
because I didn't want to be a teacher. I was like very
It's
vehemently
not for
against.
everybody, is it?
Well, I also grew up with two parents who
Yeah.
were university teachers and who were like kind of like, well, you got your MFA, you could teach, and I was like, "Ugh." But I saw what like how mentorship was important to her and like the people she brought into the class, how mentorship was important to them. Passing on knowledge is a very important part of our business. And I was like, you know what? Okay, yeah, this is part of my ethos too. Like
Yeah.
I've I've been brought up this ladder by people ahead of me. I need to do the same for
Yeah.
people that follow me, and that is part of what I do, which is why I teach. And again, Sanders has been incredibly generous with her mentorship. She's helped me a bunch with politics as well, especially around Halyna Hutchins,
Yeah.
because she was actually one of her students. So when I was going through that, just being able to talk to another DP who knew her very well and get help navigating that
Yeah.
situation professionally and personally, it was just so, so helpful. And so I'm very, very grateful to those two specific people. But I have other mentors, Stephen Lighthill, who was my boss at AFI and my the head of my department while I was at AFI. Also incredibly, just such a lovely human being who's been incredibly generous with his mentorship. And Allison Kelly, who was my our mentor at the Women in Film,
Okay.
our WIF
Yeah.
Artisan and Crew Cinematography program.
Okay.
She's also just been super helpful, super like I've sent all these people my reel and being, can you give me notes and stuff like that?
Well, I think
I
that's yeah, that's all part of to some extent these people are also obviously in your network, and I think that a
hmm
lot of folks understand at least any industry you want to be in, you have to build a network. But I think in film, it's even more important because there are
yeah,
so many obstacles that are either artificially put in place or are there just by necessity.
yep. And part of that on the network side, I mean, bringing into that network, right? Like
Yeah.
I have a network is incredibly important, which if you're introverted, I have tips and tricks for that if you
Yeah.
ever wanted that. But um, I started, you know, like I'm part of many organizations that are supportive towards specific parts of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm part of like the Chicana Directors Initiative, which is
Okay.
an organization for Latina women or female identifying filmmakers of all kinds. So it's
Yeah.
not just directors, it's ADs, anyone who works in there. I helped establish the Ecuadorian Creative Collective, which is for Ecuadorian and Ecuadorian American creatives in Los Angeles. Like we meet up and
Yeah.
we talk about that thing. And I'm also part of the ICFC, the International Community of Female Cinematographers. I'm actually on the stewardship board for that
Oh,
because
that's great.
that means a lot to me. It's an organization that is a collective of 360 plus female DPs or female identifying DPs worldwide. And the goal of the organization is to create more visibility for women and
Yeah.
female identifying DPs because we are only, I think the latest statistic is really sad. I don't remember if it's 3 or 4% of films
That's
were shot
it.
by female.
Wow.
Hmm
I figured it was relatively low, but I didn't realize it was that low.
Yeah, the statistic
Yeah.
fluctuates. I know it fluctuates between 2 and 4% depending on the year, but it's really low. There's only been four women, I believe, nominated for the Oscar,
Yep.
and that's why Autumn Gerald Arkapaw nomination for Sinners this year is
Yeah.
so big. She's also the first woman of color to be nominated for an
That's
Oscar in
incredible
cinematography.
though. Yeah.
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 So it's and so the ICFC in particular is really important to me because it's a community. I've found so many friends through that community, and we help each other out. Like if I have a job that I have to jump off of, and I need to rec another DP, I can be like, oh, here are my friends from this community, and like we pass each other jobs or like provide each other support of many kind, a lot of
Yeah.
different kinds,
Yeah.
not just professional. Um, so networking is so, and that's how you get your jobs too. You
Yeah.
know, like a lot of my jobs have been come from like colleagues who, uh, one of that, can't make a job, or like they're like, oh yeah, they're looking for specifically a Latina DP. Here's Emmy.
Yeah.
know, or they're looking for, or like I hear of a job that is like a documentary. I don't do as much documentary. So I'll be like, oh, but my friend over here, she does a lot of documentary. Here's her name. Um, so the community just fosters a lot of that. Or like if or even within like the ASCMNTs, the female DP community, I've done some workshops as well where I've volunteered as a DP, and that community is really cool too because then you're like, oh, I'm shooting this and I need actors, I need a director, I need an AD, like, and people just start,
Yeah.
supporting each other. It's or like I'm showing my film is showing at so and so festival and people come and support, or you go and support. And a lot of that is it's a very community and network based industry.
Yep.
So fostering those connections. And again, for me, what I tell people is it's not, I joke that I'm a professional coffee drinker.
Okay.
Um, I make it a point of like catching up with my friends, catching up with my connections as much as possible, even if it is just to go and like grab a cup of
Yeah.
coffee. Um, because these people end up being my friends too. And so
Yeah.
like, keeping up those connections and keeping your network alive and healthy is like really important. Like it's probably the most important thing. You just being like,
I think
"Hey,
you're
I'm
right. No matter
here."
what. So if you look at, all the things that are happening with the business right now, where do you see the industry at in 5 years?
I honestly don't know how to answer that
Well,
question.
probably, yeah, I don't think you're alone in that either. I mean, obviously,
And
AI is one of the biggest things that's affecting Hollywood at this point. And you've probably seen the Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt little 15-second video that looks so real, it's scary.
yeah, and there's yeah, I mean, I don't know where AI is
Yeah.
going. Like,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of different chatter about it, and I think and again, things are evolving so fast
Yeah.
that I
That's what's crazy.
hesitate. I hesitate to tell you like what the industry will look like in
Yeah.
6 months, let alone 5 years. I
Yeah.
also believe that anyone who tells you that they know what it's going to look like is
Yeah. They're
that's
full of it. Yeah. They don't
mhm.
know what they're talking about.
They
Yeah.
don't know what to talk about. What I do know is that we need to keep a pulse on all these
Yeah.
technologies, these emerging media, and how they're evolving, not just within the industry, but outside of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of opportunity to use AI as a tool and not a replacement. I
Yeah.
think um, it is a threat. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's not, but there are limitations to it at the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there's a lot of people who are a little bit fear-mongering, being like, "Oh, it's going to replace us all." And yes, in 5 years it might. I'm not lying. That is a timeline that could exist. I'm not going to tell you it ain't.
You know what I
But
think though, Emmy, is I think that right now there's such a gee whiz element to it that everybody's
mhm.
kind of playing around with it to see what they can do and how far they can push it. And at some point, that gee whiz element is going to kind of rub off because people realize it still takes time to use it to even still create something.
Yep.
That the value will increase in human generated content.
And that's kind of what's happening. Like I
Yeah.
was hearing these rumblings on one of the the Instagram groups I belong to, or they were talking about an how like advertisement ad agencies were starting to move away it sometimes because like prompting is such a specific thing, and it's really
Yes.
you're like, oh yeah, okay, well maybe a $200,000 ad can now be done by a guy in $10,000. Sure. But the problem with prompting is like it is a skill. It's
Yes.
not just that anyone can do it. Two, um, it's really inconsistent. So
Yeah.
like you might be able to get the shot you want in three prompting tries, or it could take you 300.
Yep.
And then you have to make sure every single one of these shots that you're generating is consistent. And you can't do multiple takes of anything. That's the
No.
thing. So like in a human real world like set, you can go to your actors or you can be like, okay, give me another take, give me a variation on it. Or you can go to your gaffer and be like, can you adjust the light here and go again,
Yeah.
whatever. You can't do that with AI
No, you
with
can't.
ease.
No, you cannot. Absolutely.
So it's just like, okay, if it gives you less flexibility, then like the human element has value.
Right.
And I think that's part of that's the rumblings I've heard recently.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and again, like keep a pulse on it because
Yeah.
like it might come from for us all, 100%. But also it's still evolving.
Yeah.
And for me, I think the biggest, more than AI, I think the biggest thing with the industry right now is the way it's contracting. Um, and the way like more diverse voices are being pushed out at the
Yeah.
moment because of the contraction.
Yeah.
So, uh, um, and I come at this because like since the pandemic, since the strikes, um, I've seen a lot of really talented people be pushed out of the industry and
Yeah.
pushed like
I
leave Los
bet.
Angeles in particular. Part of that is the runaway production to other countries.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and part of that is there's less being produced. There is a
Yeah.
contraction. And
Yeah.
like um and again, because network is so important, like you end up hiring your friends and like the people that are closest to you, and that just creates less opportunity for
Yeah.
newer voices, which I think is the bigger problem, to be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
And again, these things are also evolving and these
Yeah.
things are also changing. So for me, it's like, where is there opportunity? Where is there opportunity for growth in all these changes that are happening? And how can I be at the forefront both of storytelling and technology?
I think that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you were going to then kind of wrap up like a big piece of advice to any aspiring filmmaker, whether they're students or teachers, what would that be? To kind of close things out here.
Hmm. I Big piece of advice that I would give to students or teachers is it's I think two-pronged.
Yeah.
Again, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
Um,
Yep.
um, if you really want this, like it comes at a cost. It
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
It comes at a high cost sometimes. So be ready to pay that in a way. Be ready for that marathon to be tired, and that at mile 10 you will want to give up,
Yeah.
or you will run out of money. Like if you really want to do this, it's not an easy journey. Um, but also I would like to say the other thing is like develop a point of view and a voice and then trust it.
Okay. Yeah. That's good. Yep.
If you have something to say, then develop that, work
Yeah.
on that, and
Yeah.
then don't, and then trust it,
Yeah.
trust that is something important, and that it
Yeah.
is you, and that you can, and that it matters.
Yeah. I think that's really good because I think some people kind of subvert their voice because they think it's either not important or maybe it's not one
Mhm.
that people don't want to hear, but I think that's really good because that's being very authentic to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I learn time and time again. I mean, I know we have to wrap up, but like,
That's okay. No, you're good.
um, I'm shooting this short film, and directing this short film that I wrote in next Wednesday, so on the 25th of February. And one of the things for me is like when I wrote the script, it's an incredibly personal script. It's it was written about a very funny moment in my life and
Uh-huh.
a very vulnerable one. And I wrote it just because I needed to get it down the page.
Yep.
And when I was shopping it around, like or trying to get it funded, and then it got funded, and like every time I brought on someone on the crew, because I've been in that process recently, um, one of the nicest things I've heard is like, oh my God, I've been through this. This has happened to me in some
Yeah.
way, shape, or form. Like, I felt that like these were my thoughts on the page. This is how I felt at this time on the page. And that to me was just so reassuring because like part of me was just like, oh my God, I why did I write this? Nobody is going to identify. This is such a niche, weird little thing.
Yeah.
And then I have all these people being like, no, this is much more universal. And, I've experienced this. I experienced this because it was on set. It's like, I experienced this on set myself. Like you're not alone in that. And I think that was such a beautiful thing, being like, oh, yeah, my voice in this quirky little way does matter.
Yeah.
And it is saying something. So yeah, trust, I guess like trust. I'm still learning. So yeah, you
Well, I think that's important too. So, when will this short movie be out, and where would we be able to catch it if we can?
Well, we're aiming, so we're shooting one day on Wednesday, and
Uh
then
huh.
we're aiming to get it done by mid-June. So that'll
Okay.
just run its festival circuit. So wherever
Yeah,
we get in, I wouldn't be able to tell you right now.
that's okay.
But I do have three movies on in the festival circuit at the moment.
That's great.
Two that I shot, three that I shot all three of them, but one of them I co-directed. Trending is a short film that is on the end of its festival run,
Uh huh.
and it should be on Netflix within the next couple of years, I believe.
It's called Trending.
Trending,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It's about a high school boy who watched a lot of violent videos on social media
Hmm.
on school fights, and then inadvertently almost gets into a school fight. And in that school fight, his brother gets, you know, knocked into a coma, and suddenly
Oh
the
no.
violence becomes very real. And
Yeah.
so it's a commentary on violence in social
Yeah.
media. Again, very proud of that
Yeah.
one. Shout out to my my team, Felix, our director, and Sergio, our producer. And then iBeam, which was also produced through the LFI Inclusion Fellowship Program. That's a short on gymnastics short, which is very fun. That was a very
Yeah.
fun one. That just started its festival journey. It was at Bogo Shorts in Bogota, Colombia
Uh huh.
in December, and it'll be at Fear No Film Festival in Utah next.
Okay.
Um, Shout out to Kayla, our amazing director. And then the third one is En Usted También, which is this really tiny, amazing little, I call it an anxiety loop comedy that I co-directed with the writer and actress of the film, Andrea Cañizares Fernandez, and that's coming up next at Life Film Festival in March in Los Angeles.
Okay.
4 minute, cool little short. And then the other big one is Amy's Effortless, which we
Yes.
shot in Sacramento.
Yeah.
That you can watch on
Yes,
YouTube.
you can.
And it has 2 million views, which is
That's crazy. I know.
insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was directed by Mark S. Allen.
Yeah.
Mark is an amazing director. I was so lucky and very fortunate to, collaborate with him on his directorial debut.
Yep.
So, yeah.
No, I think that's great. We could go on for hours here because
Yeah,
I mean, we really could, especially nerding out on camera and film and everything.
yeah,
But I do so appreciate the time you've taken to spend
of
here. It's
course.
been great. Thank you so much.
Of course, it's great to talk to you.
That's it for this episode of Lights, Camera, Learn. You can catch us on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, as well as our website, secctv.org. You can also support us on Patreon by clicking on Lights, Camera, Learn. Till the next episode, make it a great day. Thank you.